by doing ultrasounds, by doing CT angiograms, because there's a lot of different vessels that could not just affect your heart, but it could also affect other parts of your body. The same mechanism that's causing this issue, just like I said, migraines, the same pathophysiology, the same thing that might be causing the abnormalities of the blood vessel wall causing the migraine pain might be associated with heart disease. Now, it's very important, and I think this might apply to you, because you kind of asked me during the break about physical activity recommendations. So I know you do a lot of, some of this is, I don't know if it's extreme endurance training, but these are things that have been implicated, exercising to exhaustion.
Yeah.
Competitive sports that involve a lot of what we call Valsalva maneuver. So a Valsalva maneuver, I don't know if you've familiar with the term, is basically where you put it bearing down very significantly. So think about...
I do a lot of squats.
Exactly.
Lift heavy.
Exactly. Think about people who are doing a lot of deadlifts. People are doing a lot of significant weight movement. You're putting a lot of pressure on your internal abdominal organs. Now, that's actually the same, Valsalva maneuver is the same thing when you go into the restroom. You're squeezing down your strength. So people have chronic constipation. That's also something that's going on. You're causing a lot of internal, abdominal pressure because you're squeezing down on your...
So that explains, like women who have natural childbirth too, no? They're squeezed down.
Exactly. So that's exactly something that is something that could be predisposing. So these are all things that, so if you are a woman and if you have happened to have a dissection related to having a myocardial infarction, having a heart attack, what most doctors recommend is try to avoid the extreme sports. Now, I'm not saying that if you are somebody who's an extreme athlete, maybe you're participating in triathlons, biathlons, you're doing a lot of running, I don't want you to avoid that. I don't want you to think that that's something you have to avoid, but regular moderate exercise is always encouraged. But if you're somebody who's developed a heart attack related to it, then yes, you might be cautioned to, scale that back a little bit. Even though for the vast majority of people, I would say exercise is always a good thing. And honestly, I'm around a lot of people who do a lot of extreme exercises to a certain degree, and I don't want people to think that that's anytime, a bad thing. But if you have a heart attack due to the extreme exercise, you definitely want to look into that. So I want to kind of go with a couple little hacks here that hopefully that might have helped you out on this show, something I've been wanting to do. I think the key thing is if you are somebody who has chest pain after exercise, if you're a younger woman, look for the classic symptoms. Is it like a sudden onset chest pain? Is it radiating to your shoulder? You might want to get an EKG. I'm not saying that you have to check yourself into the hospital and get that done immediately, but I think getting an EKG is certainly something that is a non-invasive test, very easily done, can be done at your doctor's office. See ST elevation, see abnormalities in these leads. You can also get a blood test for troponins. These are all things that I think you should do before getting into this mental stress of, am I having something going on? Is it something that needs to be checked out? So I think that's certainly something that's worth doing. Unfortunately, our time this Saturday is up. I hope these healthcare hacks have helped you navigate our complex medical system. If you're interested in more information on any of the mentioned minimally invasive treatments, you can always call to get more information at 915-500-4370. That's 500-4370. You can always reach me by email at Rao, that's my last name, RAO, at medicalhackers.com. If you've been tuned into it this whole time, bless your heart and your health. I'm Dr. Sandeep Rao, and you've been listening to the Medical Hackers.
State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona is under heavy security ahead of Sunday's memorial service for conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Rory O'Neill reports.
The Department of Homeland Security is categorizing the Charlie Kirk Memorial with a special event assessment rating level 1. That means it will have security like the 3 Super Bowl games that have been played at the stadium outside Phoenix since 2008. President Trump, Vice President Vance, and several cabinet secretaries are expected to speak at the service for Kirk who was shot and killed while speaking on a college campus in Utah.
Russian warplanes reportedly violated the airspace of another NATO country. Estonia's prime minister is requesting NATO assistance after 3 Russian fighter jets flew into their airspace Friday. The eastern nation called for Article 4 consultations, which allows issues to be brought before other NATO members. Estonia's Minister of Foreign Affairs shared a post on X calling the incident, quote, an unprecedented and brazen intrusion. Russia recently triggered NATO air defenses after a high-profile violation of Poland's airspace last week. Police in Sacramento, California say no one was injured when someone fired shots at a local TV station.
Right now, preliminarily, it does appear that a vehicle did drive by. Shots were fired and the vehicle took off.
Police spokesperson Anthony Gamble says officers responded to reports of shots fired at the ABC 10 building Friday afternoon, and officers have now arrested a 64-year-old suspect at his home. The CDC is recommending only certain Americans get the COVID-19 vaccine. On Friday, a CDC advisory panel voted to recommend the shot only for those 65 or older and those with underlying health conditions. Anyone under 65 is advised to discuss whether to get the vaccine with their doctor. If cleared by the CDC's acting director, this would reverse a previous recommendation that everyone 6 months or older be offered the shot. I'm Lisa Carton. President Trump is suggesting the FCC should take licenses away from TV networks that are overwhelmingly critical of him. More from Lisa Taylor. Trump made the remarks Thursday aboard Air Force One, a day after Disney-owned ABC took Jimmy Kimmel off the air indefinitely.
They're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. It'll be up to Brendan Carr.
FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr had threatened to take action following Kimmel's comments about the alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk. The president said when all the evening shows are critical of him, they're not allowed to do that. They're an arm of the Democratic Party. A federal judge is dismissing President Trump's lawsuit against the New York Times. Scott Carr reports.
The judge says the complaint Trump's attorneys filed is too long and needs to be truncated to be considered. The president had sued the Times and several of its reporters for defamation, alleging it had acted with reckless disregard for the truth as it covered him in the lead-up to the 2024 election. The judge has given Trump's attorneys 28 days to file an amended complaint. I'm Scott Carr.
The U.S. Army is confirming 4 crew members on a Black Hawk helicopter were killed in a crash west of Olympia, Washington. Details from Brad Ford.
The crash happened Wednesday night during a training flight. The Army says the soldiers were assigned to the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. It's also known as the Night Stalkers. After the crash happened, Thurston County Sheriff's deputies tried to approach the wreckage, but heat from the fire kept them away. The soldiers' bodies were found as the crash scene was being investigated. The Army describes the incident as an aviation mishap. I'm Brad Ford.
The University of Colorado says its new live buffalo mascot, Ralphie, will make its debut before today's football game. The 1-year-old American bison weighs 700 pounds and was donated by the Beaupre family. Ralphie will make her debut run prior to today's game between CU and the University of Wyoming. I'm Lisa Carton.